Hey there, welcome back to Let's Get Cooking. It's your girl Rashida. And guess what? If you haven't subscribed, please click that subscribe button before we get started. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make these wonderful blueberry muffins. They're very easy, but yet delicious. Let's get into this recipe. Starting off with a few ingredients, you see them here. Basically flour, sugar, sour cream, butter, of course, blueberries, little baking powder, baking soda, some vanilla. I'm using 2 bowls for this recipe. In the smaller bowl, I want to mix my dry ingredients. Very simple. I have here 1 3/4 cup of flour. I'm adding in a teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of baking soda. Once that's in the bowl, I just want to mix that well. That's the dry ingredients right there. You have your flour, baking powder, baking soda, pinch of salt. Then next up, I'm going to pour my larger bowl, and that's where I'm going to add my sugar and butter and the rest of my ingredients. Right here, you see that combination of sugars. I'm using half a cup of regular sugar, 1/4 cup of the brown sugar, and I just want to mix those until they're well combined, evenly distributed. You guys, do you love blueberry muffins? Let me know. Drop it in the comments. What is your favorite type of muffin to eat or to make? I find blueberry muffins to be very flavorful, good. You want to have some fresh blueberries. I prefer fresh over frozen, but you can use both or either. So I mix my sugars well. Then I'm going to go ahead and melt the stick of butter. Right there is room temperature, but I'm going to just melt that for a few seconds because I do want to add melted butter with the sugars before I combine the two. Very simple recipe. Adding that melted butter. Butter makes everything better, but if you want to cut back on the butter, you definitely can. Maybe put about a half a stick of melted butter and maybe about 1/4 cup of applesauce. But for this recipe, we're going a half a cup of melted butter. And I'm just going to mix that well just for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to continue to add some of the rest of the ingredients into this bowl. Next up for our wet ingredients, we want some vanilla. First of all, starting off with about a teaspoon, but hey, I love vanilla extract in my baked goods. So I did about a teaspoon and a half of vanilla, teaspoon and a half to 2 teaspoons. Plus I'm adding in 2 eggs, one at a time. Of course, they're room temperature because when we're baking, we love our ingredients to be room temperature. So just adding 2 eggs into the bowl and mixing those very, very well. And what I love about this recipe is it's just pretty quick and easy. I think the end takes the longest, and that's just when we're applying the streusel on top. Right here I'm adding in just a little bit of milk, 1/4 cup of buttermilk or regular milk, whichever one you have. And then I want to add in a half a cup of sour cream. And of course, it's room temperature, which means it's been sitting out for a couple of hours. It just mixes easier, makes a more delicate, fluffy muffin. All my wet ingredients are in the bowl, so one more time, we're going to get that mixer going. Mixing for a minute or so. And this is all the wet ingredients. So we have our dry ingredients ready. We have our wet ingredients just about ready. So we're going to be doing some combining very soon, very shortly. Have you subscribed yet? If not, please click the subscribe button to join the channel. Also, remember to like and share. Okay, wet ingredients are done. It's time to bring in the dry ingredients. That's in the smaller bowl. We started off by mixing our dry ingredients together, and we're going to add these to the wet ingredients. Next up, we're going to mix them, but we don't want to overmix because we don't want a tough batter. So I'm going to mix it for a few seconds, and then I'm going to get ready to add in the blueberries, and you can just watch the process. I was really shaking off those beaters, wasn't I? Okay, next up, I did keep a little bit of the dry ingredients in the bowl to mix with the blueberries because when you're baking with berries, they'll just all go down. They'll drop to the bottom if you don't mix them with a little bit of flour, a little bit of your dry ingredients. So right here, you'll see I am using about a cup, I want to say a cup and a half of fresh blueberries, a cup and a half to 2 cups of fresh blueberries. And you see how I mixed that with the dry ingredients that I already had, the remaining dry ingredients. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and fold them in the mixture and mix those well. So every muffin will be loaded with blueberries, and that's what we want. We don't want no dry blueberry muffins at all. This is a cup and a half fresh blueberries. And here you'll just see the folding process. You don't want to smash on them. You don't want to use your hand mixer, anything like that, because it'll just squish them all up. So we're just going to take a little spatula, flat spatula, and just fold in those blueberries. Not to overmix. And I have to say, from having one of these muffins, these are delicious. Plenty of blueberries, great flavor in this muffin. And very moist and tender. So it's just a great muffin to have on hand, to cook for your family, your children, to have with coffee or tea. Any time of day, these muffins are just delicious. Okay, our batter is complete. Right there, I'm setting the batter to the side. I do want to remind you to preheat your oven at 425 degrees. It will not bake the whole time. They will not bake on this, just for 5 minutes to get that rise in the dome. Then we're going to lower the settings to 350, but preheat the oven to 425. Right here, I'm making the topping. It's just a little streusel crumb topping, and this is just with some brown sugar, flour, and cold butter. This is where you do want to use cold butter. Mixing it in a bowl. And this process just takes a few minutes, but you definitely want that streusel crumb topping on top. It just takes these blueberry muffins to a whole nother level. Now let me give you the exact measurements in this bowl. We're just using a 1/4 cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of regular sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, pinch of salt, and 2 tablespoons of cold butter. As you see, I just diced my butter up, put it in a bowl, and I'm going to just start mixing it. You can use a pastry mixture, but ultimately what I found, a fork. I just ended up mixing it all up till it's nice and granular, looking like sand with my hands. Hands are some of the best kitchen tools. And then my streusel's ready. So let's go ahead and get the batter in the muffin pan. And it makes a good solid dozen. I found my handy dandy ice cream scooper to be the perfect amount to go into each of these cups. But then I went back and added a little to each one. If you don't have an ice cream scooper, feel free to use a tablespoon. I would say about 2 heaping tablespoons will go into each cup. But as you're putting the filling, the batter into each muffin tin, you definitely can see how much you need to make them even. You want to fill them to the top. No need to go halfway. Just fill them to the top. They're going to bake. They're going to rise appropriately. And then what I did do, if you didn't see me, I saved a few blueberries, probably about 21, 24 blueberries from the bowl. I did not mix those in the batter so that I could place them on top of the muffins. so you can see those pretty blueberries when they bake. Now here I'm adding about a tablespoon of the streusel to each muffin. And one thing you want to make sure you do is to, once you finish placing it on top, you want to just take the spoon or take your hand and just pat it into the batter, because if not, they'll bake and the streusel will come off. So first I'm going to just add the streusel on top, but then I'm going to go to each one and just push that streusel into the batter. Not mixing it in, but just pressing it in firmly. And as you can see right here is the process. Perfect. Getting these ready. They're going to the oven. Oven's preheated at 425, only for 5 minutes. 425 for 5 minutes. Then we're going to lower the oven to 350 for an additional 10 to 12 minutes. Keeping an eye on your muffins. All right. They went in the oven, and just like that, voila! Our blueberry muffins are out the oven, looking wonderful. You see how some of those blueberries that we put on the top have burst nicely, so you have that blueberry juice just streaming out. These are hot, fresh blueberry muffins out the oven. Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait to try one. These are delicious. Fresh hot blueberry muffins on deck. Okay, so I wanted you all to see the middle and to see how it's just blueberry popping in the middle. So walk with me as I grab one of these warm muffins, and I'm going to just cut it up just so you can see what the inside looks like. Just figure I'll give you that vantage point also. Cutting into it. I probably waited about 5 minutes. And then when we look at it, we'll see that this is a hot muffin. So if you let these cool for a few minutes, then everything is set and settle. But right now we're cutting into a hot muffin, so it's going to look like a hot muffin. Hey there, blueberries. All right, let's cut this open, see what she looks like. Okay, I see blueberries on the outside. And oh, look at those blueberries on the inside. Ooh, that is a hot and fresh and moist. Do you see how moist that muffin is? It is a good one, y'all. Well, thanks for coming in the kitchen. Thanks for baking with me today. I showed you how to make these wonderful, fluffy, moist, blueberry, loaded with blueberry muffins. I hope you make them. Let me know how they turn out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Till next time, have a blessed day and a blessed week. Y'all make these blueberry muffins. Let me know what you think.